Revealed, the sinister secrets hidden beneath the cursed witch tree, spine-chilling horror tales. Jennifer had heard the whispers everyone in town had. Children had gone missing, and the cursed witch tree was to blame. Locals said it fed on fear, luring innocents into the woods like hungry shadows. Panic clung to the air, thick and suffocating, almost like the fog that blanketed their struggling suburb. Despite the tales, Jennifer brushed them aside. After all, she was a single mother with 2 kids to raise, barely making ends meet after late-night shifts at the diner, but as she scrubbed the tables late one evening, her phone buzzed violently, lighting up the dark corners of the diner. It was Mac's mom. "Something's wrong." His voice trembled, a raw edge of terror cutting through midnight stillness. Her stomach dropped. She dashed towards home, heart racing beneath the dim streetlights, ever flickering, ever struggling, as if even the light was afraid. When she stumbled into her backyard, dread churned her insides. An unsettling sight awaited her, distorted symbols etched across the grass in grotesque patterns. They twisted as if they were alive, a sinister charade of fear making her hands tremble. "Max?" Her voice was a whisper, quivering in the grip of terror. He appeared at the door, eyes wide, wild. "I saw it, Mom. I saw something in the woods." The night felt alive, a living thing waiting to consume them. Jennifer's gut clenched. The tales, the warnings, they buzzed around her like angry hornets, a tree that stole children, that twisted fate and left only despair. Suddenly, Jason, the neighbor, materialized from the shadows, his hat pulled low, eyes darting. "You need to stay inside," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "They say the councilman is hiding something about the tree. We shouldn't talk about it." Thoughts raced in Jennifer's mind, trust in neighbors slipping, growing paranoia twisting her insides like a vice. She forced her voice to remain steady. "What do you know, Jason? Just don't get too close to the woods." With that, he vanished back into the night, leaving only the weight of his words behind. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jennifer, heart pounding, stared at the depths of the woods where darkness loomed larger than life. She needed answers, and fear both urged her forward and held her back. The fear of what she might find weighed her down like chains forged in the darkest corners of the town's past. Whispers about the councilman bubbled beneath her skin, a man who claimed to protect yet masked secrets sharper than any knife. With every corner turned, the community's certainty shattered. Nights filled with dread and whispers now clouded her mind. "Stay away," they said, but every nerve in her screamed for the truth. Just as she began to connect the strings of a darker web, a rustle to her side made her freeze. Eyes widened, breath halted, the shadows grew, clawing at her sanity. Yet, amid all this fear, a faint glimmer of resolve ignited. She wouldn't let her family be woven into this tapestry of terror. But as she took a step deeper into the woods behind her home, another sound, low and guttural, echoed through the air. The branches creaked, the night pulsed, and for Jennifer, a haunting question lingered: what would she find beneath the cursed witch tree? The air grew heavy as Jennifer stepped into the woods, the darkness swallowing her whole. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, but she pressed on, heart racing. Every leaf that crunched beneath her feet felt like a drumbeat of dread, echoing in the stillness. Branches twisted overhead like ancient, gnarled fingers reaching down, eager to snatch her. "Max!" She called out, though the only response was silence, an all-consuming quiet that felt alive. It wrapped around her, drawing tighter, suffocating. The woods seemed to murmur, the whispers growing louder, each step bringing her deeper into their grasp. Suddenly, an eerie glow emerged ahead. The cursed witch tree stood there, its gnarled roots jutting from the earth like jagged teeth threatening to bite. The air around it crackled, thick with an otherworldly energy. Tendrils of mist snaked beneath the ancient branches, swirling like lost souls caught in a dance. Jennifer's breath hitched, a primal instinct screaming at her to run, to turn back, but she had to know. As she stepped closer, blood like sap dripped slowly from a gnarled branch, pooling at its base. A shape took form in the darkness, something flickering just outside the light of the glow, a shadow of a child. The air grew colder, wrapping around her like a shroud. Jennifer. The soft voice was faint, whispering through the twisted branches. She squinted into the dimness, straining to make sense of it. Max? Her voice trembled. Nothing but silence responded. Panic surged within her, churning like a storm. She had come to confront the fear, yet all she felt was dread, a paralyzing, choking fear. Stepping closer still, she noticed something stuck in the roots, half-buried. It looked like a toy, familiar and worn, the kind Max loved. Reaching for it, she felt a jolt of pain shoot through her, a sharp reminder of the darkness binding her to this cursed place. "Leave the children's whisper echoed again, haunting yet pleading. Her heart sank, reality crashing down as she understood the implication. The tree was not just an object of local legend, it was alive, feeding off the fears of the families it had claimed. It exuded a malevolent energy that twisted hope into despair. The foreboding power of the witch tree pulsed beneath her feet like a heartbeat, hungry for new victims. Stumbling back, she caught her breath, fighting against the pull of despair. "I won T," she shouted, anger fueling her determination. "I will find my son." Suddenly, the winds howled, darkness thickening, swirling, enveloping her in chaos. The tree trembled, roots breaking free as if to reach for her, to drag her down into its depths. Fragments of laughter erupted from the mist, high-pitched and frantic, a cacophony of lost children calling, begging her to join them. The ground shifted beneath her, a living entity, threatening to swallow her whole, but in that moment of terror, she felt a warm flicker, like the last flicker of a candle before it goes out. She pulled out her phone, desperately shining the light toward the shadowy figures. As the beam pierced the darkness, the laughter faltered, and the shadow shrank. With newfound resolve, she turned and sprinted back the way she came. Each stumble ignited the fear deeper within her, but she pushed against it. The tree screamed, a sound both ancient and horrific. Would she make it out? Was the darkness truly behind her, or would it wrap its clammy fingers around her once more? The rustle of branches behind her promised that the pursuit had only begun. Her heart raced in her chest, not just from fear but the gnawing truth: the witch tree would not let her leave easily. What awaited her at home? What would happen if she couldn't find Max in time? As she raced, a chilling thought crept into her mind. What if the tree wasn't just feeding on fear, but feeding on something much darker, her very essence? With every step, she pushed harder, knowing the stakes had never been higher. What would she sacrifice to save her child? And did she have the strength to confront the curse that hung over her family? The night crackled with danger, uncertainty swirling around her like the fog, and as she broke free from the woods, the horrifying question loomed in her mind: was this just the beginning? As Jennifer burst from the suffocating darkness of the woods, daylight hit her like a physical blow, sharp and blinding. She stumbled forward, gasping for breath, heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped animal. The familiar sounds of her neighborhood felt surreal, ordinary against the chaos that still lurked in her memory. No time to wonder. She had to find Max. She shouted again, desperation slicing through her voice, but the absence of response filled her with dread. Where could he be? She pivoted, scanning the street. Her house stood just ahead, its facade calm, even inviting, yet everything about it felt sinister now. It was an untrustworthy refuge. With trembling hands, she flung open the door, the wood creaking in protest. The house was still. Too still. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light, and shadows lingered in every corner, as if the darkness had seeped inside. Max! Her voice crackled, but there was only silence. She rushed through the rooms, each empty space amplifying her anxiety. The liveliness of her home felt crushed under the weight of fear. The toy she had spotted at the tree echoed in her mind, heavy with dread. Was Max somewhere trapped like that? As she moved into his room, her heart sank. His favorite blanket lay crumpled at the foot of the bed, but there was no sign of him. She sank to her knees, trembling fingers combing through the fibers. Memories flooded back: laughter, hugs, bedtime stories. "Where are you?" she whispered, guilt clawing at her. Had she lured him into danger? Then, as though in answer, a soft sound reached her ears, a faint giggle that froze her blood. It came from outside, a haunting, childlike laughter cutting through the air. It was familiar, too familiar. It was Max. A chill ran down her spine as she bolted for the open window, throwing aside the curtains. The yard was empty, the sun shining brightly, yet that laughter twinkled around her like a wisp of smoke. Max! She called, desperation rising again. Running outside, she felt the ground shift beneath her, like something beneath the grass was alive, aware. Mommy! The sound sliced through the air again, but this time was closer. From the direction of the witch tree. Panic surged as she turned. She fought against the invisible chain urging her to run, yet there was no denying the pull. The tree was alive, and it seemed to be calling to him, whispering promises in a voice just above the wind. Jennifer! The scream rang out now, undeniably coming from her son. Every nerve in her body sparked as she charged toward the woods again. Breathing hard, she pushed through the underbrush, branches clawing at her clothes, ripping at her. Just ahead, the tree loomed like a monster, gnarled roots stretching toward the sky, beckoning her closer. The glow was there again, malevolent but seductive, and at the base of the tree, shadows flickered. She raced towards them, dread pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Max! She could see him standing there, a small silhouette against the brightness, and as she reached for him, his voice changed, melting from the innocent call of a child to something deeper, something ancient and cruel. Mommy, come play with us. Her breath hitched as the ground shuddered beneath her feet. The tree trembled, roots writhing, and reality cracked around her. The shadows morphed, twisting into forms she couldn't understand. An icy fear gripped her. Suddenly, she remembered the sap. Was it blood? The lost toys, the warning of the whispers. She stepped back, the ground beneath her now alive with energies pulling at her ankles, urging her to surrender. Max! She screamed, reaching desperately for her son, but the shadows were pulling him closer to the tree. What truth lay buried in the roots of that cursed tree? As darkness began to swallow her whole, she felt the answer slip away, like sand through her fingers. What sacrifice would she need to make this time? Desperation surged as she fought against the pull. The laughter echoed, a chorus of lost souls, beckoning her to join Max. What had she done? What had she unleashed? As the shadows surged forward, Jennifer's resolve solidified. She wouldn't let them take her child. Wouldn't let them take her. But at what cost? Would she have the strength to face the darkness again, or would she become another whisper in the woods? The air crackled with an unseen tension, and the moment she stepped back was the moment the tree began to roar. What awaited her within those shadows? Would the witch tree reveal its true nature, or would it consume them both in one fell swoop? Jennifer's heart raced, the primal fear coursing through her veins like ice water. She had to act. The presence lurking in the shadows was hungry, and so was the tree. Each breath tasted like smoke, thick and suffocating, as she fought the gravitational pull of something she couldn't see but felt all too vividly. Max! Her voice cracked against the silence, desperation clawing at her throat. The shadows danced, weaving between the gnarled roots like malicious spirits eager to entrap her son. The unnatural glow pulsed, swallowing the light. She was being drawn in, each step an agonizing reminder of the loss she could face. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices, taunting her with promises of joining them, promises that stung like open wounds. Then she saw him again, her boy. He stood at the edge of the glow, head tilted, eyes wide with an innocence that sent waves of nausea crashing over her. Mommy, come play with us. The echo of his voice sent her mind spiraling, battling what she wanted to believe versus the horror that enveloped her. Stop! She shouted, voice hoarse, cracking under the weight of her own courage. But her resolve felt so fragile against the allure of the tree. It whispered her secrets and dared her to cross the threshold, to give in to despair. The ground rumbled, roots writhing as though eager for her response. What would they do to her son? The question hung heavy in the air, filled with the taste of terror. She couldn't lose him. Not like this. Taking a deep breath, she plunged forward, the shadows twisting around her ankles, pulling her back while her heart urged her forward. Max! She struggled against the unseen force. I'm coming! The trees behind her creaked ominously, branches bending as though they were spectators to her plight. For a moment, the light faded, just enough to see Max's silhouette drifting further away, swallowed by a darker void beneath the ancient tree. In the depths of panic, her instincts kicked in. Jennifer recalled the tales that had floated through the community, whispers of a curse binding the lost toys, the children taken, voices trapped in the liminality between life and death. The witch tree was the heart of it all, and she was standing on the brink, her son dangling at the edge of eternity. "Let him go!" she roared, defiance surging through her. The words rolled off her tongue like fire. The shadow shivered, hesitating for just a heartbeat, and she took a step closer. Max looked up, hope shining in his wide eyes like a beacon, conflicting the terror around them. "Mommy, please." With renewed strength, she lunged forward, grasping his tiny hand. The sensation sent a tremor of electricity through her, as if the earth below them had breathed life back into her resolve, validating her fight against the shadows. In that moment, the branches cracked and moaned as if protesting her defiance. The glow intensified, shadows contorting in their rage, and the very air thickened with malice. "You cannot take him!" she yelled. But then it hit her, the unmistakable, sickening reality. If she pulled him away, would it leave her to face the wrath of the tree alone? The struggle surged inside her, yet she wouldn't let fear overtake her love. At that moment, the ground buckled beneath her feet, sending both of them toppling into the darkness. As the icy grip of the shadows ensnared her legs, Jennifer felt a rush of panic. Would this be her end? Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a flash of light surged through the tree, illuminating ancient runes carved into its bark, threats, warnings, perhaps a key to it all. What are those? Her thoughts raced. The light flared suddenly, blinding, and she gasped. The pulse of the tree quickened, the whispers roaring in fury as she realized the truth. There lay a choice, an unthinkable choice. Would she sacrifice her own safety and become that which she feared, or would she find a way to break the cycle that had ensnared so many, including her precious child? In that fleeting moment of clarity, she caught a glimpse of herself and Max in the bark. Reflected but twisted, what her love could become or what the witch tree would claim. A decision loomed before her, swirling within the shadow's grasp. Could she unlock the dark secrets to save him, or was the tree waiting for her answer to seal their fate for eternity? As the light pulsed menacingly, an insidious voice whispered in her ear, "Join us, Jennifer." The darkest truth remained hidden and the ground trembled, preparing for whatever lay ahead. Would she muster the courage to confront the deep, entangled roots of the curse, or would it claim them both? The ground shifted violently, a surge of dark energy running through the earth like a thunderous heartbeat. Jennifer's fingers tightened around Max's hand, a lifeline tethering her to the fading light of hope. The shadows recoiled, but the glow grew bolder, threatening to engulf them whole. "Stay close," she cried, panic squeezing her breath. Max stumbled beside her, his small body dwarfed by the monstrous tree, its gnarled roots writhing like serpents seeking prey. The air was electric, dense with an otherworldly power that clawed at Jennifer's sanity. From within the shadows, the whispers intensified, their tempo quickening, echoing in a language that jarred her mind. They spoke of betrayal and hunger, filling her with visions of other children, faces twisted in terror, shrill laughter morphing into cries as they were drawn into the tree's embrace. Were those lost souls forever trapped between joy and despair? "Mommy, I'm scared." Max's voice trembled, pulling her from the swirling darkness. She glanced at him, his wide eyes filled with tears reflecting the ghastly glow, a heart-wrenching reminder of what was at stake. "I won't let anything happen to you," she promised, though a creeping doubt gnawed at her resolve. She turned back toward the tree, its ancient runes pulsing in a rhythm that felt more alive than anything she had ever known. The markings seemed to whisper, words fell from the bark like ash, promising salvation for Max, pain for her. As the light subsided, the tree's true essence unfurled, revealing faces twisted in agony within the bark, struggling to break free. The temptation to scream seized Jennifer as terror wrapped its icy fingers around her. Still, she held tight to Max's hand, unwilling to let the shadows claim him. If she was to confront this horror, the answers lay within the cursed wood. Did any of these trapped souls still have their humanity? Could she reason with them? "Listen!" she shouted, her voice laced with desperation and defiance. "Let us go. What do you want?" Silence fell. For a heartbeat, the shadows held their breath. Then came the answer, tangible and haunting, a voice cold as winter wind. You must choose. Her heart raced, each thud matching the pulse of the tree. What choice? Join us in the eternal light, or face the fate of those who stand against the darkness, it hissed, malice dripping from every word. Around her, the whispers crescendoed, swirling into a tempest of sound that threatened to drown her. The roots twisted, creeping closer. Rooting deep into her mind, they reached for her memories, both cherished and painful. She saw her own childhood, playing in sun-dappled fields, but that happiness warped into shadows, a glimpse of the countless playmates lost. No! She would not let the tree twist her joy into despair. Jennifer searched for a thread of bravery, a spark to ignite hope. With a fierce cry, she demanded, I will never join you. The shadows surged, a howling wind bottling her in with rage. She felt decay, a piercing chill, the air turned to ice as the tree throbbed with fury. The ground quivered, and Max clung to her leg, his little frame shaking. In that instant, the realization hit hard. To free him would mean to plunge herself into the depths of despair, to risk losing who she was. But wasn't he that the very essence of her love? Acting for Max meant embracing the fear. Max! She yelled, grit in her voice. Remember the stories about the light pushing the dark away. We have to trust in that. With a jolt of courage, she lunged forward, releasing his hand only momentarily, hoping the tree would not ensnare him. She seized a branch, a stout wooden staff, weaving it with the strength of her will. Suddenly, the whispers turned to screams. Fragments of lost energy rushed over her, wind howling through branches like a chorus of the damned. In that noise, Jennifer felt their anguish transform into power. She wasn't alone, the truth of all those lost children ignited a fire within her. Let him go! She shouted again, her voice filled with newfound determination as she swung the branch. A crack echoed through the air, and the shadows recoiled in shock, pulling back just enough for a breath of freedom, but at what cost? The tree responded with a resounding rage that threatened to gobble her and Max whole. In the chaos, the pulse of light began to dim, and she knew it was a race against time. Could they escape the clutches of the beast before the light was extinguished? Max's hand slipped from her grasp, his voice a fading echo, Mommy. In that moment of despair, Jennifer made a frantic decision. She gathered the courage of the lost ones before her, determined to be their salvation, their witness. Her heart thundered as she stepped deeper into the shadows, ready to unveil the darkest truth hidden beneath the cursed witch tree. But as she descended into the abyss, a chilling sound echoed all around, a voice, familiar yet twisted, whispering, You joined us, dear Jennifer. Could she navigate this haunting nightmare, or was she descending into darkness herself? The shadows pressed in, nearly suffocating Jennifer as she moved deeper into the darkness. The familiar voice that had whispered her name lingered like a ghost on the edge of her consciousness, transforming musty memories into nightmarish realities. She gripped the branch tightly, its rough bark digging into her palm, anchoring her to resolve, yet her heartbeat pounded the question again, who had spoken? Max! She called out, desperation clawing at her throat. The air was thick with dread, the palpable fear curled around her like a snare, squeezing tighter with each heartbeat. She strived to ignore the writhing roots at her feet, mere extensions of the tree searching for anything to weave into their dark tapestry, but Jennifer felt every ache and pull against her skin. A flicker of light emerged ahead, pale and wavering, drawing her closer. Mom! A glimmer of hope sprang within her at the sound of Max's voice. She rushed toward it, invoking every ounce of strength within, but as she approached the source, the brightness transformed into sharp, jagged shapes writhing before her. It was not the innocence she yearned for. The specters of lost children appeared in the illumination, their eyes hollow, faces frozen in frozen screams, a grim reflection of pure loss and madness. She stopped short, her breath hitching. It was a room of horrors, an expansive void of despair that wrapped around memories that were not just hers or Max's, but collective, that of every child lost to the sinister tree. Join us, they chanted, their voices choppy and distorted, echoing against the ancient wood. Torn from the light into despair. Join us, no! Jennifer shouted defiantly, her voice echoing in the chamber, infusing her heartbeat with resolve. You're not dead. You are still here. We can fight. Max's cry jolted back to her thoughts. Was he still safe? She could feel the roots shift, twisted limbs searching for a way to grasp someone. A wave of dread swept over her, threatening to pull her beneath the surface. Taking a deep breath, she steadied her resolve, refusing to let the despair consume her. She swung the branch, charging at the glowing figures that morphed before her. They shrieked, their cries twisted into an unbearable crescendo as she slammed the wood against their ephemeral forms. Light exploded outward, washing over their wretched expressions. It illuminated the chamber, banishing some of the shadows but revealing even more grotesque forms that lurked beyond the edges. Terrified faces watched from the dark, eyes like voids filled with confusion and pain, and amidst it all, the voice returned, resonating deeper than ever, echoing beneath the wood and into her very being. You cannot save them. They were offered peace, but you rejected just as you are now. You will join them in their despair, Jennifer. The shadows chuckled menacingly, mocking her efforts with a chilling sorrow that wrapped her in an icy embrace. Stumbling back, her heart pounded violently, and the ground beneath her trembled ever more dangerously. Could she resist the promise of peace? The urge wrapped around her like fog, heavy and suffocating, but the memories surged through her. Max's laughter, their small adventures, the warmth of the sun and joy of life. No! I will not become part of this. She screamed, burning with defiance a second time. Behind her, the whispers of the lost echoed in response, urging her toward surrender. Then, something shifted not just in the chamber, but within Jennifer. The darkness began to tremble as she held on to hope, gripping the branch tighter, howling against the tree's oncoming wrath. In the flickering light, she saw Max small and vulnerable, inches away but hidden behind a curtain of shadows. Mommy, his voice quavered. The darkness roared, enraged that she dared stand tall. Thorny limbs lashed out, rooting for her ankles to snatch her into the abyss. Terror rippled through her, yet the flame of determination burned brighter. Max! She cried again as the ground heaved beneath her, roots wrapping and unraveling like the sinuous fingers of a beast waiting to devour. She barreled forward, the jagged shadows closing in on her as a guttural, furious growl emanated from the tree, but just as hope flickered, she was pulled back, stretched between two opposing forces, one clawing for her soul, the other driving her to save her son. Time seemed to freeze as she fought against it all. Let us go! She screamed, her voice seizing the essence of life's worth. The shadows' laughter turned into wild screams as the figures twisted and writhed, mocking her resolve. But not without consequence. Their screams felt like javelins piercing her sanity. And then, through the chaos, she felt it, what she had never expected. The warmth of light blossomed in her core, fracture after fracture, glowing and pushing outward. Mommy! Please! Max pleaded, terror creeping back into his tiny voice. Could she summon the strength within to overcome the darkness? Would she be able to pull him free, or was she destined to fall into despair alongside the lost souls entwined with the cursed tree? The question loomed heavy. The answer hung perilously close, but just out of reach. Searing pain shot through Jennifer's arm as the roots latched onto her even tighter, pulling her into the ground's cold embrace. She gritted her teeth, fighting against the overwhelming sensation, her heart racing like a trapped bird. Max! She shouted, trying to pierce through the blinding dark that enveloped her. The shadows hissed back, a cacophony of whispers tightening around her like a noose. The tree trembled, its bark rippling as if it were alive and aware. A pulse echoed through the chamber, resonating in the stillness, sending waves of dread down her spine. She could still glimpse her son, his small figure illuminated in flickering light as he looked on with wide, terrified eyes. Mommy! Don't leave me! Each second felt like an eternity. Jennifer's chest constricted. There was nowhere left to run. The dark figures loomed closer, their murmurings growing louder. Help us, they begged, their voices dripping with anguish, chasing away the warmth she fought so hard to remember. Join us, no! She screamed again, fueled by desperation. In that moment, she noticed the branch still clutched in her hand, lifeline or weapon. Only now, it began to glow with a soft, golden light. The warmth coursed through her, surging against the coldness that sought to engulf her whole. Max! Trust me! Jennifer called out, gripping the branch with both hands, feeling its pulse synchronize with her erratic heartbeat. We can break free! The roots tightened their grip, and she swung the branch wildly, a blinding flash igniting all around her. Light streamed from the branch, fracturing the darkness. With a deliberate thrust, she drove it into the tail of the shadows, which recoiled as though physically injured. The wailing intensified, a high-pitched chorus of twisted anguish. The darkness buckled at her defiance, releasing a rumbling growl that felt like the earth itself protesting. She felt the roots loosen slightly, just enough for her to bend her knees and secure a foothold against the chaotic movement around her. A whirlwind infused her with adrenaline. Could she really do this? A shadow darted forward, all darkness and malignancy, and with it came an overpowering stench of rot. "You cannot defy us." It was the voice again, more insistent this time, deeper and filled with malice. "You don't belong here. What you seek is lost." "No!" Jennifer yelled, pushing through the flood of desperation that threatened to consume her. The light intensified with every word, pushing back against the shadows. The branches and roots writhed as if the very wood was alive and frightened. "We refuse." Max's cries surrounded her, his little hand reached toward her from behind the curtain of darkness. "Mommy!" With a fierce determination, Jennifer took a step forward, plunging the branch into the earth. A shockwave radiated from the impact point, splintering the shadows and sending ripples through the chamber. "We're fighting for our lives. We want to just disappear." The shadows howled, the sound ricocheting around the chamber, escalating to a monstrous pitch. The grotesque faces morphed into anguished visages, staring with a blend of hatred and fear. "Foolish woman! You will wish for the peace we offer." Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Cracks splintered the floor as roots coiled rapidly, furious at Jennifer's defiance. The chamber itself seemed to scream, walls tightening, closing in to swallow her whole. Jennifer's breath came in panicked gasps, but she stood firm, staring into the eyes of despair that had once claimed so many. There had to be a way through. She twisted the branch, weaving it into the visage of light around her. "Stay with me, Max. I'm coming." As the shadows closed in, blurring her vision, she could feel the warmth of Max's hand brushing against her own. "We want to let go," she pledged, her voice steady now, fighting against the pull of the abyss. But in that moment of resolve, something in the darkness shifted. A dark figure crawled forward from the depths. A form Jennifer thought should have been lost forever. A glimpse of something familiar. A face she recognized. Mom? It was a voice she never thought she would hear again, a voice that shattered her confidence. As Jennifer looked closer, her heart seized. The intensity in the room surged, a terrible realization blooming. Could she live with the truth it unveiled? Please, the voice echoed in her mind, pulling on heartstrings she thought had already snapped. What darkness would she be forced to confront in the names of love and loss? The ground pulsed once more, darkness circling like a predator, waiting for a moment of weakness. Her resolve began to falter as she was faced with the truth of her past. Would she be brave enough to withstand it, or would this be the strength that finally broke her? The shadows thickened, inviting her deeper. The weight of her decision hung heavy in the air. Somehow, she would have to find out, before it was too late. The darkness heaved, twisting like a living creature around Jennifer. She felt a deep chill inside her heart, a mix of dread and longing. This was no ordinary shadow, this was a reminder, a specter from her past she thought was long buried. The sight of that familiar face, twisted in the shadows, sent waves of regret crashing over her. "Mom?" The word echoed, sharp and heavy, igniting memories she had tried to forget. Panic seized her breath, tightening like a vice. Could it truly be her? The mother she lost all those years ago, consumed by despair in her own life? What darkness had claimed her? "Mom!" Max's voice broke through the turmoil, laced with fear. "Don't listen to her." Jennifer staggered backward, the roots pulling her unwillingly toward the gaping maw of despair. "Max! Stay behind me!" She couldn't let him see her falter. But the sight of her mother twisted in anguish made her question everything. What if her sacrifice had doomed them both? "Join us," the voice whispered, seductive and sultry, swaying Jennifer's resolve. You were never meant to escape. Shadows danced in the periphery, reaching for her, drawing closer. No! She shouted, gripping the glowing branch tighter, willing the light to push back against the darkness. I refuse. The ground trembled beneath her again. It felt alive, angry and hungry, wanting her to yield to the despair. The walls of the chamber closed in, foggy breath mingling with the darkness. The rotten stench worsened, overpowering her senses, filling her lungs with the taste of fear. Do not abandon her, came the dark voice, now layered with layers of sorrow and sinister intent. This place, this darkness, it's a part of you. You cannot escape it. Embrace it. Jennifer could feel the weight of her mother's gaze, heavy with sorrow and regret. If she turned to her, could that be the answer? Would the shadows claim her too? The light began to flicker like a dying flame. No. I won, Mom. Max cried again, his small figure barely visible amid the chaos. You have to fight. The shadows pressed against her, whispering tantalizing secrets only she could hear. They knew her fears, her failures. With each moment, the air thickened, despair filled her lungs, turned into a suffocating fog. She felt herself slipping, but then she remembered Max's innocent face, filled with trust and love. Those memories ignited a fierce fire within. I won, give in. She screamed, using every ounce of strength to push back against the shadows. I will never leave you. She thrust the branch again into the ground, feeling the pulse synchronizing with her own heart, matching the frantic rhythm of her thoughts. Every thrum echoed like a bell of hope in the dark. Light exploded around her, illuminating the chamber in bursts of golden brilliance, pushing the shadows back momentarily. Leave us! She shouted as the shadows shrieked, recoiling from the radiance. I refuse to succumb. In the flickering light, she caught another glimpse of her mother, hovering at the edge like a mirage. Jennifer, the voice faltered, cracking under the weight of pain. Help me! But just as Jennifer felt her heart begin to soften, a deeper darkness surged forth. A side shadow, darker than the others, slithered, more defined, more menacing. It moved with purpose, invading the space, and it radiated a force unlike anything she had faced before. Your strength fades. It hissed, the voice layered with malice. Will you choose your mother, or your son? Time froze as the sinister question echoed in the air. How could she choose? With her mind racing, uncertainty creeping back, her world felt dangerously close to unraveling. Mom! Max cried, reaching desperately for her, his small hands trembling. Jennifer's next move could mean saving one or losing both. Could she find it in her to fight through the memories trying to drown her? The weight of the decision clawed at her, and she felt the ground shifting against her feet. Just as the darkness seemed ready to swallow her whole, a scream tore through it. Max's scream. No! Mommy, please! Torn between light and dark, love and loss. Jennifer's heart trembled. The shadows pressed closer, urging her to decide. Would she allow the fear to consume her, or would she take a chance, embracing the love that had birthed this battle? Everything hinged on this moment. Her breath shallow, her heart racing, she steeled herself, for if she didn't act now, the darkness would win. What path would her heart choose, and what ultimate price would it pay? The shadows closed in, their weight pressing on Jennifer like a thick fog. She could see Max reaching out, terror etched on his small face, a mirror of her own internal struggle. Every second felt like an hour as the ground beneath her churned and twisted, alive with dark intentions. She could feel the icy breath of despair at her neck, whispering sweet, taunting lies. Choose. The sinister voice echoed again, drowning out her thoughts. Join her in this suffering or save the child who will soon be lost. Jennifer's breath quickened. The light from her branch flickered like a dying star, threatening to snuff out. Fear clawed at her throat. How could she possibly save them both? Fight or yield? A choice between her mother, the ghost of her past, and Max, her living, breathing hope. Max's hand trembled, almost slipping from reach. Mommy, please! He cried, his voice cracking. It shattered her heart, the sound piercing through the darkness. The shadows writhed in response, their cries a chorus of anguish and anger. They didn't want her to resist. They wanted her to embrace her fear, to again be swallowed whole by despair. Max! She screamed, desperation turning to ferocity. Hold on! She pushed the branch deeper into the ground, willing the warmth of its light to seep into the cold, hard earth. The darkness hissed, recoiling as tendrils of light emerged, piercing through the tendrils of shadow that sought to claim her. But then she stumbled, overwhelmed by memories flooding back. The last time she saw her mother, the painful farewell, the heavy burden of guilt weighed on her. How could she forget? Wasn't this darkness her fault? Join us! They taunted. Remember what you lost. The moment felt suspended in time as the dark figure of her mother slid closer, face twisting between pain and hope. Jennifer, please. She faltered. The flickering light threatened to extinguish. Would giving in be the only way to find peace? Mom! Max shouted again, panic rising in his voice. Don't listen to it. His words were an anchor, grounding her in the swell of chaos. In that heartbeat, everything changed. The darkness surged forward, shadows tethered to her doubts, they wanted to wrap around her heart, to silence her. She could almost feel their cold tendrils brushing against her, urging her to surrender, to relinquish the fight. Then, amid the swirling chaos and despair, she recognized her own strength, the love for her son that blazed hot and bright. I choose Max. She roared, the words tearing through her like a thunderclap. The branch pulsed in response, an explosion of light erupting from the ground, scattered drops illuminating the faces of the shadows twisted in rage. No! The voices howled, shrieking in unison as their solid forms began to crack, fractured by the radiance. They couldn't stand against her love, her will. They fell back, fraying at the edges, revealing the dark abyss just beyond, but as the darkness retreated, it left behind a chilling promise. Thin, lingering whispers floated through the air, clawing at Jennifer's mind. You may have chosen, but there will be a price soon. You will know the truth. With each pulse of light, that ominous declaration surged through her, intertwining with the hope she clung to. Mommy? Max's small voice broke through the noise, uncertainty flashing in his eyes as he took a small step toward her. Is it over? Not yet, not quite. Jennifer felt the familiar cold creep back into her veins, dread tightening its grip. She couldn't shake the sense that this was only the beginning. What awaited them now? What darkness had they unleashed? The bright realization was that their battle wasn't finished. No, the shadow still loomed, and the true horror had only begun. As the light pulsed and the shadows withdrew momentarily, Jennifer felt the weight of despair lift, if only slightly. Max, she cried, scooping him up into her arms. His warmth flooded her with relief, a reminder of what was worth fighting for. I'm here, buddy. I've got you. They stood together at the edge of the cursed witch tree, the air still crackling with an energy that felt like it could explode at any moment. As she clutched Max to her chest, she felt the thrum beneath her feet. Something dark still lurked, the promise of terror hovered like thick fog, suffocating hope, but then, there it was. A pulse that felt different, a heartbeat, rhythmic yet strange, resonating not just from the leaves above but from deep within the earth. We need to get away from here. Jennifer shouted, pulling Max closer. No, Mommy. Max protested, his small hand clutching her shirt. We have to do something. The tree is still alive. His words pierced right through her. For a fleeting moment, doubts clawed at her resolve, but she shook them away. We can't face it like this, she said, feeling the shadows slinking closer, lured by her moment of weakness. But if we stick together, we can find a way to stop this. With Max in her arms, they detoured around the tree, avoiding the gnarled roots that twisted hungrily at their feet. Jennifer felt the cold grip of fear threaten to pull her back, but she pressed on. They had to uncover the roots of the curse, the truth that would free those lost souls. As they forged ahead, she caught a glimpse of the runes glowing against the bark. Those ancient symbols felt like a map to salvation. We have to trace the symbols, Jennifer exclaimed, leading Max to a spot where the light pulsed strongest. Beneath the tree, the runes looked alive, slithering like snakes, urging her forward. They must hold the key. What do you think it says? Max asked, eyes wide, still filled with innocent trust despite the terror they faced. I don't know, she admitted, her palms sweating as she reached down to touch them. As soon as she did, a jolt of energy coursed through her body, and the ground trembled with violent force. The whispers crescendoed, a furious cacophony erupting around them. "Don't let them in!" Jennifer shouted as she tightened her grip on Max. The shadows recoiled at her words, losing their form momentarily, but she could feel their return, thickening around them, choking the air with desperation. "It's like they're afraid," Max whispered, awestruck, eyes locked on the symbols. "Yes," Jennifer affirmed, a wave of determination swelling inside her. "They feed on fear, but if we break their grip, we can end this." Together, they traced the symbols, Jennifer drawing strength from the faint warmth emanating from the bark. "Max, keep your eyes on me," she instructed, feeling the ground ripple beneath her. "Whatever happens, don't look back." The whispers morphed into howls, the shadows clawing closer, eager for despair, hungry for the remnants of lost dreams. But Jennifer twisted her focus, pouring all her will into the symbols, willing the light to expand. "In the name of love and family," she cried out, "we choose life." With that, she pressed her hand deeper into the swirling glyphs, the power urging her through the spell, and Max joined in, his small palm enveloping hers. Golden light erupted from their connection, spiraling outward in brilliant streaks. The shadows screamed, a furious gale that seemed both furious and terrified, breaking apart as the tendrils of darkness illuminated with cracks of light, revealing glimpses of the children trapped within. "I can see them!" Max shouted, pointing towards the forms trapped in the mist, horror mingling with hope. "Hold on!" Jennifer yelled, her own fear swirling away as she summoned every ounce of courage. Together, they surged forward, pulling the light deeper, shattering the shadow's grasp and igniting the lost souls. Suddenly, the whispers turned into cries of joy, trailing off into the light, propelled toward freedom. Faces emerged from the darkness, children smiling, reuniting with their innocence as they faded away into the brilliance enveloping them. But still, the shadows writhed, threatening to reclaim what had once been lost. Jennifer felt the ground tremble violently, the roots beneath straining against their defeat. "We have to stay strong," she cried out, eyes locked in fierce determination. They pushed through the darkness, refusing to be overwhelmed. Then, as the final remnants of shadow were illuminated, one last figure emerged, a familiar shape that froze Jennifer's heart. It was her mother, her features twisted yet radiant with a light that echoed through the darkness. "Help me," the pleading voice filled with deep sorrow. "Mom!" Jennifer gasped, drawn into the moment, emotions crashing through her. "Please." But Max pulled at her hand, urgency burning in his gaze. "Mom, please." She asked not what you remember. Remember what she took from you. Torn between the love for her past and the promise of her future, Jennifer felt the shadows clawing at her heart, desperate for a moment of weakness. With tears streaming down her face, she screamed, "I can't help you anymore. I choose life." As her declaration rang clear, the light surged forth, engulfing her mother's figure. The shadows flickered and shrieked, falling back in horror as they shattered into fragments of darkness. In a blinding burst, the cursed witch tree erupted, roots cracking, sap bursting free until nothing remained but a hollow stump. The whispers silenced at last, the forest lightened, the air alive with joy as lost souls vanished. Jennifer crumpled to the ground, gasping, Max still clinging to her. They had done it, they had broken the curse together. With heavy hearts but deeper ties woven between them, they stood, framed by the remnants of a fading darkness, every shadow now reclaimed by dawn. The tree was gone, and with it, the hold it had over their town. "Mom?" Max asked, looking up at her with those wide eyes. "Is it really over?" Jennifer wiped the tears from her cheeks, pulling him into a warm embrace. "Yes, sweetheart. It truly is." As they stepped away from the old ground, Jennifer felt lighter not just in heart but in spirit. The shadows that once taunted her faded into the brilliant light, leaving only the warmth of dawn's promise behind. But just as they turned to leave, a faint whisper behind her lingered. "The price will always be paid," it seemed to say. That lingering feeling followed them as they walked, but Jennifer held on to hope. Together, they would face whatever came next. "Let us go home, Max," she whispered, and hand in hand, they stepped into the light, leaving the echoes of the cursed witch tree behind them, forever. You need to subscribe now to catch the next pulse-pounding exclusive stories just like this one. Smash that like button now, every click feeds the algorithm, and trust me, it really matters. Flood the comments section below with your thoughts about this ending and your theories on what might come next. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely must be part of this thrilling journey. Your support means everything. Only true fans like you keep the flame alive.